Hello, welcome to another Jim Clyber show. It's hot. It's really hot outside. It's let's say maybe 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Went to a greenhouse earlier today. It was probably 100 degrees. Had a mask on. Ooh, I was sweating. Been a long time since I've had sweat like dripping on the glasses. Maybe a little too much information for y'all, but it's real. Today, I may have a guest join me later. Caleb may be joining me later, but if not, I'm just going to go with it. And I found myself on Twitter last night, as I find myself many of these days, especially after these political conventions that are happening at night, and got involved in a conversation about the violence that happened at the protest a couple days ago. And maybe it's and maybe that's the whole point of the conversation, is to talk about what is the violence. What is violence? So in the conversation, it was quoting Tucker Carlson, a TV show host on Fox News, who was making a claim, or it was talking something about a 17-year-old showing up to a protest with a gun. What does that say about our protection in society, or maintaining order, like our ability to maintain order if a 17-year-old needed to show up with a gun? I think trying to say that our country is becoming chaos and disorderly, et cetera, et cetera. And so I responded saying something about like killing people does not bring order. It most likely brings more disorder. And what was it? And resolving conflict brings more order. Escalating doesn't. Escalating conflict doesn't. And to my surprise, it got something like 1,000 likes, 1,800 likes, and like 100, 200 retweets or something like that. And I've not really been that public on Twitter, haven't had that many shares or retweets or attention really on Twitter. And so that's a whole conversation in itself about getting the retweets, getting the likes, and how that makes someone feel, and the speed of conversation that happened. So Twitter, if you're not very familiar, you post a 280 character tweet, basically a micro blog or a micro post, 280 characters, and then anyone else on the platform can reply to that post. And then anyone can reply to that post. I mean, typically, unless you put some restrictions on it, but most of the time it's anyone can reply to the post. And all of a sudden, all these different threads can start percolating down, and just you get flooded with notifications, and people are shouting at each other, people are calling each other names. It's quite madness at times. I tried my best to communicate with, like reply to the people that were commenting on it, and I was hustling from here to there to here to there, and it's running out of, feeling frantic, feeling a bit frenetic, as the speed of Twitter is really fast. I mean, I looked at some of the statistics, because they'll show you the statistics on the post and how many people had seen it, liked it, retweeted and stuff. It said something like, by the time I went to bed last night, 100,000 views. That's too many. It's too many. Like, things can grow really fast. And in that situation, I guess I was excited or a bit proud that something I said grew to that level. But I can also imagine if I were on the receiving end of ridicule or mock, and that many people were seeing something of somebody making fun of me or attacking me or somebody that I cared about, how I would have the complete opposite response. So much anger, so much frustration, so much helplessness. One of the guys that commented, replied initially to my reply. Every time somebody would retweet my original post, they would almost always pile on top of this guy. Poor guy. Like, he said one thing afterwards, and I don't think there's no way that represents the entirety of his humanity, but he just kept getting nailed, and people are coming in with sarcasm and passive aggression and active aggression, and it was... At one point, I didn't know what to do. Should I just take the original post down? Because I don't want this guy getting piled on. It just doesn't feel right, you know? Gosh, I guess, I talk about this because I think a lot of times we don't consider the platform and the impact that the platform has on us. So a platform like Twitter, where one can only communicate in 280 character chunks, lends itself to be a lot faster. And they've put, I imagine they've made it a lot easier for people to enter things very quickly. And so when you open it up, boom, 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 you hit it and it goes. And when it goes, there's no time delay. So it goes immediately, or as fast as it possibly can. And then other people can respond as fast as they possibly can. And so there's almost this chase, this rapid chase of trying to figure out what's happening next and to say something before other people say it, and to really get the stuff out quickly. And compare that to another platform, like even an internet platform like Facebook. Facebook, one can post as long as they want to. They can type in, you can be 10 characters, it could be probably 500 or 1,000 characters into a post. And that has different dynamics than something like somebody's privately hosted blog. Somebody writes on their privately hosted blog. A lot of times there aren't people to reply to it quickly. And so you post something and people may not respond to it that fast. So you don't send something out there and get punched immediately or hugged or welcomed immediately. There is inherently some kind of asynchronicity to it. Think about letter writing, man. I could write a letter and send it to someone, and maybe it takes a few days for it to even arrive to the person. And once they get it, perhaps they'll take a couple days, if not a couple weeks or months, to respond. I mean, this was more common back in the day than what many of us do these days. But just that inherent time delay built into it. And also the form factor, where people can explain themselves with more words instead of trying to condense everything into a very, very short paragraph. Maybe 280 characters is maybe 2 or 3 sentences, depending on the length of the sentence. And then you have that aspect where it's so short that when you type in a short sentence, it tries to reduce things as much as possible. In other words, almost has to pull out the context and embed the context into the pronouns and the subtle references instead of directly referring to them. So one thing that happens a lot on Twitter, from what I've been seeing lately, is that people will use a lot of pronouns to refer to things that have happened. That is not what it should be, or that is not what he or they wanted for their, I don't know, for their role in life. And you're like, what's that? He, they, who are they? Who's he? It, what's it? Who are you? What are you referring to when you say it? And having the tonality of spoken language removed from it makes it even more difficult. Having the physical expressions removed from it, as we would see, like visual expressions removed from it, makes it more difficult to understand the context. And also the ability to retweet or therefore share a part of a conversation, just 2 or 3 sentences of a conversation, without including the rest of the conversation necessarily. So it could be, maybe there's a conversation that goes back and forth and there's maybe 20 tweets in the tweet conversation. And somebody retweets and shares tweet number 17. And by that point, people in the conversation are starting to have a shared context of the things to which they're referring. And the person who receives the retweet doesn't know that it's tweet number 17 most of the time. And if they do, it takes a lot more work to jump into and try to figure out, okay, where did the conversation start and what's really going on? And so there is maybe other people think about this. I don't know. I'm sure that people who work at these companies think about these dynamics and how these platforms can shape the communication styles that we have with each other. I wonder how many users do, though. I mean, I do because I love this stuff, but I really wonder if other people are sitting there thinking, oh, okay, if I want to communicate with somebody and I don't want it to get angry and really fast and out of control, then I will not talk to them on Twitter, or especially not on Twitter in public. Maybe Twitter private messages or direct messages, DMs, but not in the public Twitter. But do we think about this? I mean, do you think about this? I do occasionally, but I just wonder how many of our communication decisions take into consideration the platform that we would be using to communicate. And I think we do this more often than I probably imagine. Should I send this person an email or should I send them a text? If I send them a text, should I just send them a very long text out of the middle of nowhere? Or should I send them a voice note? Because if I send them a voice note, they can listen to it whenever they want. Whereas if it's a text, they may be in a meeting or they may be at dinner or something and get news that they don't want to hear. So giving a voice note can give them time to listen when they want to listen, especially if it's something that's a little more in-depth or potentially jarring information. Or I can send an email, but if I send an email, again, they may receive it in the middle of, they may receive it on their phone. They may receive it when they're at work. They may receive it when they're, lying in bed or whatever, and their phone bling bling, and they wake up to something that either excites them a lot or angers them a lot or confuses them or makes it hard for them to fall back asleep. I mean, I don't know. I think about this stuff a lot. Should I communicate something via voice, just voice? Because then people can listen to it while they are doing other things. So if it's something a little bit longer, maybe put it on voice so that they don't have to look at a screen the whole time. But how do they discover something that's based on voice? If it's just based on voice, then it's hard to get a sense of the human behind it. And also a lot of our discovery these days is scrolling through feeds. So if I'm scrolling through a website or scrolling through a mobile phone app, I can't really discover the audio. I'd have to be scrolling through audio. And what's the experience of scrolling through audio? So, I mean, this is kind of run around in circles, this conversation. But I just want to pause and say that I think the structure of the platforms that we use to communicate deeply impact how we communicate with people. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I can go on. And maybe in a future episode, people can dial in and ask some questions or make some comments, and we can continue the conversation that way. But just paying attention to the platform and the constraints of the platform and how those platforms may constrain our conversations as well. The speed of the conversation, the detail of the conversation, the directness of the conversation, the depth of the conversation, the context of the conversation, the who's in the conversation, who can participate, who can leave, who can join. How do people discover the conversation? Is it open? Is it closed? When do people listen to the conversation? When do people respond to the conversation? How do people respond to the conversation? Do they do it when they're on their phone, or do they do it when they're only at their computer, or in private moments, or when they're in the middle of a crowded room, or what's the context for that? So many different variables that go into how we communicate on these platforms. And I know for me, paying attention to it can really help. So if I'm feeling really frenetic and really frustrated and angry and like very fast moving, going on Twitter may not most likely won't slow me down. If I want to slow down, going on Twitter is probably one of the worst places to go because it's just fast. If I want to slow down, I might take out a book, or I might get on a phone conversation with a friend. Maybe phones can be quick too. But books and newspapers and something that's print, where it's not going to be throwing new information at me and surprising me with new things, can slow the body down a little bit, slow the mind down. Anyways, I think I've talked enough about that for now. I want to jump into a topic about violence, actually, and our definition of violence. So in the Twitter thread last night, in the conversation, I basically started to dialogue or debate with somebody about what is violence. And my idea, or at least what I was talking about, was responding to situations with love in our hearts. So even if we commit a physical act towards somebody, so if somebody's like two people are fighting and I jump in and I grab one of the guy's arms and I like twist it behind his back and his arm breaks, but I'm doing that with good intention, that I don't perceive it as violence. And we went back and forth a little bit, and I think he helped me understand that, I've seen it a lot in the classes that I run. When the person who is doing the violence and committing the violence, the quote unquote violence to the other person, they almost never recognize it as violence. Rarely does the person who is perpetuating the quote unquote violence see it as violence. They think, oh, I was just trying to help, or, oh, I didn't even see that person there, or, wow, like, I can't believe, I didn't even know that they got hurt. I had no idea of the impact of it. Especially when it comes to more emotional violence, but even physical violence. A lot of times I think the person who is perpetuating it will say, I was just trying to protect my family, or I was looking out for myself, or I was in self-defense, or I was looking for somebody else, or I was trying to take care of somebody or protect somebody. And but what I've seen in the class as well is that the person on the receiving end is the one who seems to be able to determine whether it is violence or not violence, the perception. So if I'm walking down the street, and this is the example I used, if I'm walking down the street and I trip and fall into you, and you fall down, is that violence? Would you, as the person receiving my physical contact, perceive it as violence? Okay, now let's change the situation a little bit. Let's say I'm walking down the street, I trip and fall into you, you fall down, but when you fall down, you hit your head on the sidewalk and you have to go to the hospital. Now would you perceive it as violence? Okay. What about another scenario? What if I'm standing in front of you and we're having a conversation, and then all of a sudden I smack you on the head? Smack you pretty hard, like right here on the head. Would you perceive it as violence? Does my intention matter? If I'm slapping you on the head because I'm angry and because you said something I really didn't like, is that violence? If I slap you on the head because I see a mosquito and I know that malaria is really prevalent in the area and I don't want you to get malaria, is that violence? Or is it protection? Is it the physical act only? Or is there something underneath the physical act that determines whether we see it as violence or not? Is there something about the intention of the other person that makes us want to judge it as violence? Does the intention, if they have a good intention towards us, rather, if we believe that they have a good intention towards us, is that violence? Or is it care? Is it love? What is it? If somebody physically hits us, but is doing it because we believe they're actually looking out for us. I mean, at least in my worldview and the way that I see the world currently, because it can always change, but the way that I currently see the world, if somebody physically hurts me or emotionally hurts me, and I believe their intention was to help me, then I don't perceive it as violence. I perceive it as violence when I think they physically or emotionally hurt me and they're trying to physically or emotionally hurt me, that they either want me to feel bad. They want me to hurt instead of wanting me to feel good. And this definition may be controversial for many of you. One of the people I was chatting with, one of these guys said, if I saw it that way, I must be a complete psychopath. What? Like, and maybe he was referring to the first definition where I said it's more about the intention that I have towards others instead of violence being the intention I assume others had towards me. And so when I reflect on this second definition of violence being me assuming other people are trying to hurt me and associating with the act that they're doing, I would imagine nonviolence is the practice of trying to change my assumptions about other people's intentions. So trying to see other people as either too overwhelmed by what's going on in their own life or actually with good intentions towards me and trying to make me feel good and feel whole and feel well or whatever that means. Or they don't know what they're doing. There's not this grand master plan to cause me pain and suffering. And when I've practiced this and when I remember to do this and when I've gained the skills to automatically respond to situations more like this, oh, I feel so much better. Oh, I feel so much better. And it's not just about me feeling better. When I do that, I believe that I don't fight back. I don't punch back. Because often if I think somebody is punching me, I will punch them back. Or I'll run away. Either strategy typically hurts the other person. So if we're getting into a shouting match and they shout at me and I shout back, it can hurt them. Because maybe they'll attack some part of my character and then I'll cut them deep. And then they'll cut me even deeper. Or we get into a shouting match and I walk away and I just ignore the person. Much easier to do nowadays, since many of us are interacting with each other remotely. I just don't respond to them. They send me a message, they send me an email, they call me, I just don't pick up the phone. Or if I do it in a very curt manner. I just say one word or two words. Hey, how are you? Fine. Hey, what's been new in your life? Nothing. And just stonewall them and shut them down. But that's assuming I that's in the scenario where I assume that they were trying to hurt me. And there's a part of me that is almost automatically trying to hurt them back. But when I can process it and get to the point where I don't think that their intention is to hurt me, I can respond in ways that aren't nearly as likely to hurt them now, or aren't nearly as likely to make them think that I'm trying to hurt them. But at the same time, I can't control that. That's where it gets really interesting, is that I can't control whether other people perceive my actions as violent or benevolent. I can't control whether other people are how they see me and how they judge me. What I can try to control and try to practice and gain skills at is how I see the actions of other people. If I see someone, okay, let's get very real. Let's get very prescient. Let's talk about the situation in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Black man was shot by the cops. He was with his family and his kids. I think we talked about this the other day, but let's go into it a little deeper from this perspective. On the video, he was walking towards his car and he was reaching in his car, and the police officer shot him 7 times in the back. And he's in the hospital. Hopefully, he will recover. Apparently, he's in the ICU, maybe paralyzed for the rest of his life. And I'm trying to imagine what the police officers were assuming about his intent. Okay, maybe the police officers are sitting there and assuming this guy is reaching into the car. He's probably trying to grab a knife or trying to grab a gun, and he's going to shoot us. I can't trust what he's going to do. I feel very suspicious and very afraid. And so I'm going to, I automatically react and shoot first. Maybe afterwards, after that happens, they realize, oh no, he wasn't reaching for something like that. Maybe they feel remorse. Maybe they feel guilt. Maybe they feel anger. Maybe they feel, who knows what they feel. But how would the situation have been different if they didn't think that his reaching into the car was going to lead to a violent act? If they assumed that he was reaching in the car to get his driver's license, or he was reaching in for some other reason, to assume the benefit, to give him the benefit of the doubt, to assume that he is not trying to hurt them, I imagine the situation would have ended very differently. Because we can look at what happened in Kenosha just a few nights later, when there was a 17-year-old with a rifle that shot, I think three people, killed 2, and walked right up to the police officers with the rifle, and they didn't really do much. They didn't arrest him. They didn't detain him. They didn't question him. They just kind of moved on. Now, again, why? Why would they not? For me, it says that they probably trusted his intention. Towards them. They probably trusted that he is not going to come up to me as the cop and shoot me with that gun. They probably assumed, okay, he doesn't have this evil intent. I feel safe, or I don't feel suspicious of this guy. I feel confident that he's not going to do anything to me. But then they rushed off somewhere else, and because maybe they were trying to find people that they did think had this evil or this malevolent intent, trying to hurt people, that were going to commit violence. So the attacking of the buildings and the looting of the buildings is can be seen by police officers and people in the community as, these people are trying to hurt my community. They're trying to take away everything I have worked for. They are trying to destroy my life. That's one way to look at it. That's assuming that these people have an intent to either harm me or are so oblivious and so indifferent to me they don't care about me at all. Or we can look at it a different way, that the people who are quote unquote rioting and looting have been sitting in their house for months, maybe lost their job, maybe struggled to get unemployment, maybe have been experiencing domestic abuse at home, maybe have been drinking or using drugs more than they were before. Maybe they had family members who have died of COVID-19. Maybe they've had parents or both parents die from COVID-19. Maybe they're bored. They have nowhere to go. They are tired of seeing people get shot and they want to go out and protest. And they get caught up in the hullabaloo of being in a protest. And most protests are peaceful. And then sometimes as it goes towards night, people get, some of the people drink more and it gets darker and more fireworks and things like this come out. And who knows? But taking that second perspective is not assuming that they're going out there because they're trying to destroy the lives of the people who own those buildings. They don't know what they're doing. They're just running through the world doing stuff because they may feel helpless or powerless or their life is spinning out of control. And how would our conversation be different if we looked at it that way? If the people who are in these cities or the people who are standing in the Republican National Convention talking about the doom and gloom and how this country is falling apart were to look at some of the people who are doing the rioting or looting and not ascribe an evil intent to them, not ascribe this violent mentality to them, but rather a maybe cluelessness or a helplessness or them doing it out of love for the people that they care about. Maybe they're looting, for example. Maybe looting is not because they're trying to destroy the store, but because they haven't had a paycheck in months and they're going to get evicted and they're choosing between paying rent or getting food for their kid. And so maybe they loot and take some food, or maybe they get a toy because, when was the last time they got a toy for their kid and they want to distract the kid so the kid's not feeling so much stress or absorbing so much stress of the parent. Or the parent's stressed out because they've been dealing with kids for, they've had their kid locked up in the house with them for months now and trying to work while the kid's there and there's just too much going on. So that's, what if we looked at the rioters and looters as human beings that aren't trying to destroy our lives, but are just trying to do whatever they can, and they don't even know what they're doing most of the time, but just trying to do whatever they can to protect their loved ones and just try to change the situation maybe for all of us. I don't know. But would it be fair if we just stopped there? What if we looked at it from the other perspective? What if we look at the people who are the law enforcement and look at it instead of them trying to come into my neighborhood and destroy my life, or them pulling me over because they're racist and they absolutely hate everything that I stand for and everything that I look like. And what if we look at it as someone who is scared, or someone who is just nervous, or someone who is really uncomfortable or really jealous or really insecure when it comes to black men? So that them doing these physical acts is not like a premeditated, intentional, I'm going to try to destroy the lives of these people, but more than anything, like fearful or rage-filled reactions to everything else that's going on in their life and directing it at a group that puts that fear and that anger over the top. Does it make it right what people are doing? Does it make it right that people are rioting and looting and causing harm to many of these buildings and businesses and people who own these buildings and businesses? More than anything, it's the people who own them and the fear that these people are now going to have that everything that they work for is going to disappear overnight, or everyone that they love is going to disappear overnight. But is it fair that the police officers or the law enforcement are that people are feeling fear that they're going to lose their life for everything that they work for because they're going to get arrested or they're going to get pulled over, they're going to get shot by the authorities. I think so many of us are trying, and so many of us have so much going on the inside that we don't say to other people, and we definitely don't say to the quote unquote enemy or the stranger, that we forget that we're all in this mess together. we're all like, the fear is almost the exact same fear. The fear is that something is going to happen to my life and I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose everyone. Compounded by the thought that people are trying to do this to me. Because you know what? There's a hurricane that's coming through. Hurricane Laura, I think, just hit in the south, in Louisiana, Texas area. And maybe another one coming through. It's hurricane season. And people might lose everything. They might lose their house. If they didn't evacuate, they might lose their lives. They might lose all the people that they love. But we don't have that same vitriol towards the hurricane as we do towards our neighbors, our loved ones, our family members, our community members who cause us similar loss or even less loss than what would happen in, say, a hurricane or a pandemic. I think 180,000 people have died across this country so far. The virus isn't trying to hurt us. As somebody said, the virus is just doing what viruses do. They're just trying to spread and get into a host. And I think they even said the virus doesn't really want to kill the host because then the virus loses its host. So killing us is not its intent, actually. It's trying to come into some type of symbiotic relationship with us so that it can survive. I don't know. I try my best. I try my absolute best to realize that other people aren't trying to hurt me. And even if they are trying to hurt me in that moment, it's only because they feel so hurt that they haven't had this 20-year plan to destroy my life. And even if they have a 20-year plan to destroy my life, it didn't, start at birth. They weren't born with this evil intent to try to take me out and to try to cause pain with me. That more than anything, it's that they're feeling something and they probably just want other people to feel it with them. That they feel fear that they're going to lose their life, that they feel fear that they're going to lose everyone that they care about or everything they've worked for. And they don't want to be the only one feeling that. And so they go out and they do things that make other people feel it, so they know what it feels like. And this is one strategy. If I feel hurt, I want other people to feel hurt. I don't want other people to be laughing and smiling. I want other people to hurt with me. That's one way to bring the sinking together, the entrainment or whatever that Caleb was talking about. But another way is if I feel the fear, to process the fear myself and to go from fear to courage and to recognize it's okay to feel afraid, but I can still do it anyways. Fear is good. It's good to have fear. But too much fear and too much unprocessed fear can be really paralyzing. So if we process the fear, then we don't have to force other people to come into the fear with us. We can say, I feel afraid, it's okay, life is scary, and we're going to march forward. But if I don't accept the fear, then I want other people to join me in that deep muck and to stay there with me. I don't know. I think we can project a lot of our emotions on other people. and assume that other people are trying to hurt us and that they don't care about us. And it just brings so much, it can bring so much misery. This idea that other people don't care about me, or other people want me, even like other people either don't know I exist, or they don't care about me, or they want me to feel bad. They want me to hurt. They want me to feel pain. They want me to suffer. I mean, yeah, I can believe this. And the reality is, I'm never really going to know what other people want from me. Gosh, I can't figure out what people want for dinner. How am I supposed to know what they want in terms of a relationship with me sometimes? You know, it can be a very complex question. But so if I can't know, or if it's very, very difficult to know in a specific moment, let alone across a long period of time, then it seems like there's freedom for me to choose what I want to believe. Do I want to believe that people are out there trying to hurt me? That people are out there and they don't care about me? That people are going to screw me over, and they're going to cheat me and lie to me, and they're going to betray me at any opportunity that they get? That they're just trying to figure out ways to ruin my life and to take the things that I care about? Just saying that right there makes me feel angry and frustrated and scared. And I feel myself closing off. Do I want to believe that people don't even know that I exist? That people don't care about my existence? That if I were here today and gone tomorrow, nobody would notice? That me recording these episodes, or me just shouting out into the void, and nobody would ever listen to something like this? You know, why do they care about me? Or they look at me and they, whatever, just ignore him. I say that and I feel myself sink. I feel myself just dropping into this sadness and numbness, this kind of disconnection. Like, what's the point? But if I choose to believe that people care about me, and that they're so excited for me, that they miss me, that people love me, that people want me in their life, that people want to talk to me, that people want to be near me, that people want to support me, that people want to help me in any way that they can, I feel almost tears coming to my eyes. I feel a smile come across my face. Like a big one. Look at that. All I did was just talk about 3 potential different beliefs and the impact it had on my body. Right then, right here, right now. It's a choice we have. We can choose whether to believe people hate us. We can choose whether to believe people don't even know we exist. Or we can choose to believe that people love us, that they care about us. I choose the last one. And although sometimes it may be hard to remember that, and sometimes it may be really hard to believe that, I say, why don't we try and practice and get better at it? Because it has helped me so much in my life when I remember that and when I believe in it. When I don't, when I think that nobody cares about me, I can really go into some dark places, you know, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. And when I think that people are out to get me and people are trying to hurt me, I can get really angry and really frustrated with the world and really afraid. But when I think people are excited to see this ridiculous beard, or at least might laugh when they see the beard or the crazy hair, and see me and catch up with me and have a conversation with me and share a coffee or a beer and That's how I want to live in the world. And I can only imagine how our political, societal, cultural, racial interactions in this country would be different if more of us practiced this. Let's try. We'll see. 45 minutes by myself. Good Lord. I'm going to end on that note. And for anyone out there, I just appreciate you paying attention, making it this far in the conversation, and just holding space for me and hoping that some of this hits you in a way that you didn't expect, and it might sink in a little bit deeper than you ever imagined. So, if not, cool. It's okay. I'll still practice. I won't take offense. I don't think you're trying to hurt me or you don't care about me. I just think that you got other stuff going on in your life, and that's fine because we all got lots going on. Anyways, bye.